Welcome to the Conscious Publicist Podcast, a space where thoughts become ideas to advocate for a more conscious human experience in the media. Our thoughts and ideas inspire action, and the most notable leaders and organizations have transformed thoughts and ideas into global initiatives that have impacted the lives of millions. My name is Ashley Graham, and as a woman-owned business founder and publicist, I guide leaders, visionaries, and creators in discovering their conscious media voice and methodologies that inspire connection, community, and impact through aligned media channels. In this podcast, we'll dive into public relations, thought leadership, business, and entrepreneurship, all through the lens of being a conscious human being. I'll take you behind the scenes into the habits, thoughts, and modalities that have helped leaders shift past paradigms of limiting beliefs, comparison, and self-doubt to show up for themselves to become the subject matter experts they were called to be. Subscribe to the show on Apple or Spotify and join us on this journey of awakening the conscious, enlightened leader within you. I am so excited to bring you another mindset expert, especially around money, to the show this week. Please welcome Alejandra, a founder, writer, and the host of the Brown Way to Money podcast. Alejandra's mission is to help women break free from financial trauma, master their money, and create financial independence. Her work has been featured in many publications, including Forbes, Business Insider, Entrepreneur, Oprah Daily, Money 2020, AP, and many others. Alejandra is passionate about redefining understandings of money for Black and Brown women in business, addressing the unique financial challenges they face through a lens that acknowledges generational trauma and cultural experiences. Her approach challenges traditional financial advice that often fails to account for diverse experiences and community obligations. In our conversation, we explore how becoming a mother transformed Alejandra's business vision, her journey through limiting beliefs, and how she's helping women of color reclaim their voices in the financial world through what she calls the Brown Way to Money. Get ready for an inspiring discussion about mindset, financial independence, and bringing childlike curiosity back to our business adventures. Welcome to the Conscious Publicist Podcast, Alejandra. Alejandra, I am so excited to have you on the Conscious Publicist Podcast. We have been waiting for the perfect time to have this conversation, and today is the day. I'm so grateful. I want to get us started today by asking what story is wanting to be told through your wisdom, your brilliance, and your expertise this year.
Love it. And thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward for this conversation after our one-on-one. And that's such a great question to start because so many things come to mind that I need to choose what I feel most in alignment right now. But a little context before I answer that question. Last year, I felt pregnant, a very welcome pregnancy, but we were not expecting it. We had different plans. And when we saw the pregnancy test, everything changed for the better. I felt that everything in my life clicked in a way that I didn't feel before. It was just like, oh, everything that I'm doing makes sense. But there is just one little piece that I don't see how it fits. And that little piece was my business. Everything that I was doing was something that I was passionate about, which was teaching female entrepreneurs about money mindset. Everything that I was doing was something that I learned when I was very young, at the age of 6 years old, because of my own story. I had immune system condition when I was 6 years old, and doctors pretty much told my parents, like, enjoy her, she's just going to be here for maybe 8 years old or so, so make the most out of that time. And my parents really put me in this normal environment. Everything was normal. Go and live your life. Go and dream. You want to make a dreams book? Let's do it. So mindset was really all around me since very little. And it makes sense for me to not only go to the mindset route, but make this beautiful mix with finances, which is my love as a professional. I am the kind of girl that will sit down next to my dad and my mom. Sometimes they're both accountants. Say, Mom, let's play invoicing. Like, I am the CEO of your company. Who do I need to invoice today? That was the majority of my time. So it made sense for me to really mix both of those walls. And for 7 years that I had been running my business up to last year, it made sense for me to teach other people this different point of view, to teach, to fall in love with finances and money, just like I was. But when I saw that pregnancy test and the world was already changing, my perception of the world was changing as well. And I got invited to so many different events where the question of what about us? What about our voice as a Black woman? What about our story? There were so many events that I walk away with. That's interesting because that is not our experience. Like everything that you're saying, I'll put you an example. I went to a huge fintech event here, and all of the products and services that we're developing was incredible. But they erased our life experience with money that is rooted in financial trauma, is rooted in cultural beliefs, is rooted in fear of maybe I don't have this tomorrow because of historical things. So I started to notice all of that. And when I realized this is the world that I'm going to live for my daughter, I had to change. And my message changed. And I changed. And I became completely devoted to I am going to be the one who will redefine the understandings of money for Black and Brown women in business, because I'm done with the quote unquote, just go for it, girl. You can do it. You just need to put in the work. As long as you are showing up on social media, it is going to explode one time. I was done with the, like I like to say it, I don't know if it's right or wrong way to say it, but it's like the wishy-washy way of doing business. And I was ready to say, that is not everything. You cannot stand there and tell me that it is because I don't put enough of an effort that I have not seen the results I want to see. Because mind you, I am working my arse off every single time. But there is one thing that is called generational trauma that I have experienced since I've been 5 years old, when not only, or maybe not my parents, but my whole family told me, girl, who do you think you are? Like, why are you thinking that way? Just go and find a job. There is all these kind of beliefs, all of these kind of experiences that they need a space for them to live and for us to heal from it and understand that that was how it was, but it won't define us anymore. And that it starts by redefining what money means to us and what money means for everybody else from our perspective, which has been all the way around for way too long. And that's why financial advice really doesn't work for us. But so that has been my message. That has been my call. And it has been a really fun way to have this little one being like, what? Now she did her little steps yesterday. I'm like just watching her one step at a time. Like all of the process of watching my baby growing, it's just like a reminder of how much this construct I have to do for myself, and how much of redefining all of these definitions and all of these experiences we have to do. So it has been a fun ride. And now we have the platforms to share that message, to really claim our voices with money, as I like to call it, my brown framework, the financial independence framework that I work with. Own your voice, but not only the voice like, oh, yes, I can do it. No, really own it from exactly the question that you just asked. What is it that you want to share and why you haven't done it yet? And in that, why you haven't done it yet, then we can start unpacking everything that it's the real experience.
I am blown away. I am over here blown away. The reason why I love that question so much is because it really unlocks the voice. Like you just said, you are redefining this experience for those in your community or those that you partner with to own their voice or own their voice through the opportunities that can attract through owning their voice as well. For me, that question is all around owning your brilliance and owning your wisdom as well. And so you and I just feel are synchronistic in where we're at on a mindset level and
Yeah.
why we're doing what we're doing. With the podcast, it is the greatest honor and purpose to be able to give a platform to incredible voices such as yourself to share the messages that are on their heart.
Thank you.
To lead us into the next part, and I'm getting chills just like even thinking about this. You had spoke to going to these events and these conferences and how it just was not clicking for you. There was a big disconnect because their advice, their methodologies, whatever it was that they were saying and teaching, did not speak to the human experience of your community, your people, your perspectives. So I would love to hear if you were given a time today to coach and educate for those tuning in through your human experience, how would you guide us and open our minds to maybe be a little bit more expansive in the ways that we can help others in our communities through the ways that we're teaching others as well?
Yeah, here's the thing, and you have said the correct words, is what is your experience with money? When we look at traditional financial advice and some big names on the industry, they go straight to give you an advice, and an advice that is based on shame and guilt, which is completely damaging for you to overcome your financial trauma that we all have experienced one time, whether it's through past experiences from parents, grandparents, or is your personal experience, right? So when you hear financial advice that tells you, why are you going into restaurants? You should be saving. Don't you have your emergency funds? Why are you investing in your business right now if you have credit card debt that is bigger than, are you in your 30s and you don't have an apartment? Are you in your 30s and you don't have a house? Are you in your 30s and you don't have a car? When we hear this financial advice, we believe that we are in the wrong and that everything that we have experienced doesn't matter because there is now a set standard that you are comparing yourself already. And what happens with that set standard is that is white male dominated. So you are comparing yourself to an impossible way of being. You have to bring in your personal experience just as much as you have to bring in it for to set up your goals, just as much as you have to bring it to lead your business. You have to have discernment to understand that the standards that are widely available are not speaking from a similar experience that is yours. They are not speaking from the perspective that probably as a Black woman, you don't only have to take care of the finances of your house, but also your parents' house, but also your cousin's house, and also the best friend of your daughter or your son that became somehow your son as well. You also are thinking how my financial decisions are going to affect the community around me, which is something that is very unique to Black, Latino, Brown communities, because family is one of the biggest drivers of money. So if you are comparing yourself to this standard of you just have to go on an expenses diet if you want to save some money to put into your business, the conflicting thoughts that you're going to have is they're going to stop you from making any decision with your business. And stopping you from making any decisions is way worse than doing one small decision. And that's when we see the financial advice just doesn't really fit, because we are chasing a ghost. We are chasing the standard of somebody that doesn't speak to us. The money mindset, perspectives, or the beliefs that we have are so different than the experience of a white old man, which is the standard of the industry, because not only we are completely different, but because of our generations. In average, a white male is starting not from zero, but around 100,000. So they will always have some cushion that generations before they have provided for them to start. It is such a different mindset when you know that no matter what, you already have something. But for Black and Brown communities, we are starting with debt. We're starting taking care of what others have done and figure out, how do I take care of that? And then how I become that zero so that I can move from that. We're starting 2 steps behind. And if you don't understand the impact that has in your beliefs and in your perspective, then again, your advice is not fitting. You gotta understand really the whole context. Just to say something, just to close out, because I can talk forever on this, but just to close out on this, just take a look on how kid, if you have the opportunity, just be around how the beliefs and how maybe Black or brown little girl is being raised different than others. What are the kind of advice that mom and dad has to give just to protect them, not for any other reason, but to protect them for what they know it could happen? Those beliefs, whether it is for protection, whether it is because of the way that they raised us, have no reason behind other than that's the way my parents raised me, so I will raise you that way. Those beliefs become the drivers of how you manage money. And most of those beliefs are limiting, and are limiting because they're fear based, and they're fear based because of historic events.
You are such an inspiration in so many ways. The fact that you were already naturally guiding us into the limiting beliefs about around money, or just limiting beliefs in general, even in the trailer of my podcast, is to highlight and spotlight leaders who have navigated and overcome their own limiting beliefs through their unique lens and their unique human experiences. So, if you would be open to it, if you could workshop or basically give us a master class of exactly what that blueprint has looked like for you. And then, secondary, as you said, when you found out you were going to be a mother last year, your whole business changed and evolved, and probably in a expansive way that you could have never imagined possible, because now you are thinking about this bigger picture and the future that your child was going to have through your influence, your guidance, through your wisdom and how you raised them. So, this is almost a two-part question. Like, I would love, again, to give the listeners a masterclass of how you've overcome your own limiting beliefs around generational trauma or just things that were kind of just put on you. Sad that when you're breaking generational karma or generational trauma, the cycle breakers are the ones that carry the heaviest load. So I think that there's a lot of wisdom that you can share there. But then, as an expecting mother, I would just love to hear and also share this with the audience of how that experience has evolved with your business, particularly thinking about your child's future and the amazing things that they get to learn by having you as their mother.
Oh my goodness. Here is the first thing that I'm going to say from working with financial trauma or any type of trauma perspective. I am just a mother. I am not expecting it to be a good mother. I am just a mother. And because of that, I do the best of what I can do to be a mom. And on my perspective, being a mom means changing what I see, quote unquote, wrong in the world so that my daughter understands what has been changed and that she can learn the process of spotting how I did it so that she can do the same if she wants to. But again, we are going to be traumatized. She's going to be traumatized somehow for X or Y reason. And it happens. It's just parenthood, right? So I don't, what I would say in the second question, and I'm answering the second one so that we can go to the first one. What I would say to any expecting mom is that, and this is what I told myself during my pregnancy, is that I can just aim to be the best version of mother that I have or that I've seen. I have a great example of my mom, but I know I want to change some things that she did with me. I have a great example of friends, but I know that I wouldn't do some stuff. So I can just walk the path because the more I think how I want to walk, the less I will walk it. So I would just walk the path and change on the moment whatever I don't see eye to eye so that she can have the opportunity to see how mommy did it and perhaps learn from it and change it. And that's exactly what I'm doing with my business. And that's exactly why we pivoted. What I want to say is that as a mother, the pivots that you need to do, because you always will have that long and short perspective with your daughter, with your kids, and with your business when you are a mom in business. And that leads me to the first question, which is how do I go through shaking those limiting beliefs? The first thing is that I become aware of them. As painful as they are, I come to terms that I have to face them. And I have a whole process that I can put down and I will give it to you so that people can download it. But it is so easy to say, oh, that doesn't work and just go pass by. Just say, oh, it didn't work, whatever, and just continue. What I have become a master of is to understand why it didn't work. How did I miss that? Or how did I mess that up, right? Becoming not critical, but understanding that the first premise is that everything and anything is possible. That is my belief. If everything and anything is possible, how come I didn't get that? How come I didn't do this? Why? And then I start going into this self-reflection for days. This doesn't happen in a day or two. Sometimes it takes me weeks to understand why did I do that? And I put you an example. This past December, this past Christmas, we went back home in Colombia to take my daughter to see my parents for the first time. And for around 2 to 3 months, I had this thing on my head. I was trying to get the Forbes column, and I was trying to get this thing on my head, like, why is it not working? Like, why is taking too long? Why is that? And all of these thoughts in my head. And on one conversation over Christmas with my parents, I heard something that at this moment, I don't remember the exact sentence, but it went along. If it doesn't work, then you just need to move on. And then I started to think, how many times do I think that exact thought on my daily basis? And I really sat down with it like for a week or so. And I said, if it doesn't work, I make it work. That is the belief I want to believe now. If it doesn't work, I do move on. I do not move on. I make it work. It is a matter of how much do I want it to make it work. It takes time to become aware, and it takes time for you to have an answer. And probably that answer will have so many different layers. Now, the process, and again, don't worry if you don't catch this, you will have the downloadable. But the process that I do is to go 5 layers deep. What I believe, what my parents believe, what the circle that I'm hanging out with often believe, and what my social media content is giving me. Because I spend way too much time on social media or any content, news, podcast, whatever it is that I'm listening to is making me believe. And then because I do into those different layers, I found answers. And in those answers, I found the new perspectives as well. So this limiting belief that I just shared of it doesn't work, then just move on. I found that it was in the layer of my parents. But then I also found that a lot of the news that I consume is try another business venture or give it just 3 months. I'm like, everybody's quitting. I don't want to do that. I know that this is what I want to do. So I started to be very intentional, and I found some podcast episodes with people like, I'm just going to go for it. And I started to see a different perspective, because here's the other part of the process. When you realize that's not in alignment, that is not useful for what you want to do, then you find other type of evidence that will give you the way to whatever belief that you want to have is. It is easier said than done. Yeah, I give you that. But like everything else, you train yourself to do that. So now every single time that something doesn't go as I want it, because my core belief is that everything and anything is possible, then I start to go into these filters and I start to go, how can I make it happen? And in that process, you can also find, I don't really want it. I need to be honest with myself. I don't really want that. I just wanted to try it, or I just wanted to do it, but I don't really want it. And that's the first layer, and that's okay. There's so many things that I've said, not really. I'm not into it anymore. It was just like a thought, but not really. But when you realize that it is all about, and I hate to use this word for this, but it's really the best word. It's all in alignment. And the reason why I hate in alignment is because it has so many connotations now that what I mean is that it is not really fitting with your goal. Like I want you to picture a line, literally a line. So it is not in alignment with that, then it's easier for you to pivot. It's easier for you to pivot and or to find what is the trauma that is getting on the way and is stopping you from pivoting. What I mean by this is, for instance, taking again the example of my parents. If I had some sort of unresolved issues with my parents, I would get triggered. Oh, but why you did this? Why you did that? And I will go back to the situation, walking away from the analysis of the belief and coming back to the situation that it was there. It triggered the emotional response, right? If I had that unresolved, I wouldn't be able to change my belief. When that happens, go and resolve the emotional trigger first and then come back to it. Don't forget about it, because once it's gone, you have clear energy to fuel your beliefs, your new belief system.
That emotional response that we get to any of that mindset work, I've always found to be such a clear lens into what might need to be addressed or what might need to be healed. There's so many things that you said that I'm like, oh, what would be the most valuable part to focus on? But kind of as you were saying, just even the word alignment. In my solo episodes, I'm sure I've talked about alignment, I've talked about reflection, I've talked about all of these different modalities and methodologies that you can focus on expanding beyond your limiting beliefs. And what I've found, and I can guarantee you can empathize with me, I'm sure it falls in one of those points in this guide that we're going to share. But for me, there's two different voices that I find within my intuitive space or in my energy that signal language of either limiting beliefs or intuition and
Mm,
what is truth, what is meant for me. And I don't know where I would fall, like I said, within those points, but I think even sometimes just understanding your intuitive responses or the way that your mind responds to information, but more so how things feel in your body, those can also be clear indicators of what is something that you just need to hold space with. Don't take that as truth. And then wait for that feeling in your body that feels expansive and it feels good. And you know that, like you were saying, it's fully in alignment with you. I think
yes,
understanding kind of the energy balance between that is also really important. I'd love to know if you have any experience with that.
I do. um, and I think I have pivoted again, the word. I have pivoted from trying to make sense of what is intuition or what is limiting belief or understanding that, because what really matters is that I am taking this step. I found that on the analysis between understanding what is one and what is the other one, I would do nothing. And then I will waste precious time to do something about it. So, what I have come to terms is that no matter what it is, my reaction to what it is, what matters. So, if I feel called or pulled, which for me, this is my personal experience, is that I get these random thoughts about you should do this, you should do that. Or if I see something passing, if I today I'm looking, I don't know, to have dinner, a special dinner, but I don't know what I want to have. And I see something that is really like, oh, then I will listen to that. You can call it intuition, you can call it whatever, but I listen to that urge. Now, what I have found very helpful is that the more I listen to what it feels good for me to do, and the thought of if I do this, I will feel good as well. The more I follow that, the less limiting beliefs I found, because I already place myself on when I do that, then I will feel this way. So I am going to do it. And I don't have any space for the mind to come with these possible things going wrong, which are the limitations to protect me from anything, which is ultimately the root of any limiting belief. Is the protection, is your brain doing its work. So this is a long way to answer that. I don't care how it's called. At this point, I don't want to name it. At this point, I just want to live with it every single time. At this point, I want my daughter to teach me how to live with it every single time. Because don't think that my daughter is, oh, mom, I cannot take that. She goes and take it. She wants that. She goes and take it. And then she looks at me and it's, you say no, but really? Did you really say no? So really doing more than thinking it is what separates both of them, when it's impossible, it's physically impossible for you to think about doing something when you're doing it. If you're walking, you're not thinking, oh, I should go and walk. You're just walking. And that is the difference. And literally how you hack your mind for any limiting beliefs. You just start doing it, you experience, and then you say, yes, I wanted that, or no, I didn't want that, or this happened. And then next time that something like this come across, then I know about that experience. But yeah, I think that's the summary of it.
What I'm taking from that is that if we could all just look through the lens of that childlike curiosity and childlike wonder, we can be guided and transformed into so many different experiences that could fill our cups or be in alignment with our hopes and our desires and our dreams. I love how you were painting that picture of your daughter and her drive. And if she wants something, she goes for it. We all start with that foundation. We all start with that principle. We start with that lens. But somewhere along the line, through society and conditioning and the external world, we lose that. And one of the things that I am learning through being an expecting mother myself is what steps can I take right now to be the best possible version of myself that I can be, to continue to pour into myself, which will in turn just pour into my child and
Yeah.
any other creative endeavor. Those are like children, they're like our babies. And once you've understood the energetics of how to be your full self, you can have all of these other experiences presented to you just by living, I'm going to say the word again, but living in your brilliance and in your wisdom.
Yeah, I think one thing that I would add there is that we are still that child. We Your brain develops until 7 years old, and it's the biggest part of your brain. That's why, oh, it feels like we are kids. Yes, we are kids, and we should be exploring that. We should be playing more, taking things up, especially if you're in business, especially if you're building something for yourself, especially if you are rewiring the story for your family, for your community. Because the truth is that we are just childs exploring the world through adults' eyes. Through, this is the rule that this society gave me, this is the rule that I start. So how do I fit my child, like my inner mind that wants to do everything within these rules? That's what we are doing every single time. But having your business, claiming your voice, and doing all of the things to own that voice brings you back to, what if that rule wasn't there? What if this rule didn't apply? Because that is what literally the limiting beliefs are. What if this is not here and that is not there? Can I do whatever I want to do? And more than asking yourself for permission is asking the question, how am I going to do it within these boundaries? And of course you have relationships and all kind of mix that comes in there. But bottom line is that if at the end of the day you were able to think like a 10 months old baby, you did a great job. That's it. You did a great job. You played, you explored, you grew, you kept yourself alive. That's it. That is really what I remind myself every single time. And I heard from somebody and I thought it was like cliche, but it's so true, which somebody said, you are how many months old your first kid is. And when the second one comes around, you become that second one's age because you are evolving with them. They give you the opportunity to live now that you can remember those years that you couldn't remember before. And I think that's so genius and exactly what I'm doing because I didn't remember how good it is to play with the same toy for however long and find it so creative and so interesting that I would go to show to mom every single time the same. But imagine that belief applied to business. So that means that when I see whatever I want and I like it, I would go and show it to everybody the same thing and say the same thing, going over and over. Girl, we will sold out every single time, every single time.
Can you imagine like being the person on the receiving end of that with somebody approaching them with a business or a product or a service with that much excitement and that much curiosity and just, oh my gosh, I can't wait to show you this thing. And I know I've showed it to you before, but I just can't wait to show it again. Can you imagine like somebody like me? I feel intoxicated around that type of energy. So take this as a keynote there, anyone listening. If you are in a business and you're just wanting to bring that excitement, bring it through like the lens of a child. So much excitement, so much
Truly.
happiness, so much joy. Limiting beliefs, who?
Yeah,
Scarcity, what?
exactly. And then throw a tantrum and just continue your life as well. Like I am on the phase now that she goes and every time that I say don't touch these or do it, and it's like somebody just crushed her whole world. And then 5 minutes later, she's playing with something else. So throw a tantrum as well. I think that's the lesson of everything. Be the kid that we all are because that is your main brain. That is the emotional brain. That is where the creativity is. And we can all benefit from it. We can all benefit from more questioning around how we can make it happen and know why it doesn't happen or why me and not them or why them and not me. Instead of analyzing, just staying in that space of how can I make it happen will be much better.
Yes, staying in that place of curiosity. Oh my goodness, I love it. You just gave the masterclass on mindset. And it's not even just mindset around money. It's so much deeper than that. I've been on a path of understanding my own scarcity around money and limiting beliefs around money. And whew, I've come quite a long way, but
Mm,
there's still even more to grow through, and there's still more to experience and different up levels with higher purchases or higher investments to make that is going to feel like you're starting at square one again. And it's part of the
mm.
process, it's part of the evolution.
Yeah, but how interesting will be to not have any square to start with. That is not a square to start with. That is not like, what if instead of seeing anything related to money as if it is money, but to see everything related to everything that is related to everything. So, what am I doing on this part of my life that makes me feel very expansive that I can bring to this part of my life that doesn't make me feel that much because it feels like it brings me to square one. That is so many things that I can tell you, actually, that it's wild how quickly we can change the understanding of money. And one thing that you said, it's a common belief that those higher purchases, who said it's high purchase? Because in 5 years from now, that purchase is not going to be high. In 10 years from now, that purchase is going to be a medium one. So why am I making it a high purchase? Why am I not calling it the purchase of X thing? Plain and simple. That is the way. And that is literally how I master the limiting beliefs. Like I just change it. This is a name that will limit me. What about if I name it the purchase of, I don't know, a land to build something? That's it.
See, you even helped me reframe that example as we were just allowing the consciousness to flow through. As I was picking up from what you were just saying, sometimes the most significant shifts we can make is in our everyday actions and
Absolutely.
catching the ways that our belief system is integrating in something as simple as going to a restaurant, like you were saying, feeling that nudge to go out for a nice dinner or going to the movies or wanting to do something to get out of the house. And one of the most key things you can do is pay attention to the way that your mind starts to work in those moments. We can have a whole other hour conversation on this, but as I mentioned before I hit record, I would love to give you a little bit more time and space to talk about all these incredible initiatives that have been able to come into your ecosystem through working through these beliefs. I know the Forbes column spot was one that was
Yeah.
mentioned slightly there for a minute, but
Yeah.
please share with everyone all of the amazing things that you're doing to help women in your community just own their brilliance and all their desires in this way, but then also how everyone can connect with you to continue to soak in your wisdom.
Thank you so much. Just go and follow us on our podcast, The Brown Way to Money. You can find everything there. If you want to find us, that is the way to go. Brown Way to Money podcast. And then you can lose yourself in all the environment that we have. So basically, what we do, we are a financial education platform for women of color in business. The main source of wisdom, I will call it, is our podcast because I love to talk and I love to talk about this. I went into a whole episode of how history really reframes these things. That is the kind of work that I like to do. I like to do research. I like to understand the connections or the things there. You can find that in the podcast. And if you see me around, you will see me in Forbes. You mentioned Ashley. Now I'm covering entrepreneurs of color. On that column, you will see me sometimes in Business Insider or my LinkedIn. Like I'm doing a lot of stuff, but the nuggets of it is the same, is to reclaim our voices with money and reframe on the understanding of what money has been for our community and how we are changing that. Because what I always say is we had enough of the traditional way of going about money. Now we have the brown way to money. And that's why it is the name.
I love it so much. It's so fantastic. I can't wait to personally dive into your articles and even more of your content through the guide. I want to again highly encourage to connect with Alejandra and all of the amazing things that she has going on. If there is anything that I can do to support you further outside of this conversation, you know how to get in touch with me. I would love to help continue to spread the incredible wisdom and message that you're putting out into the world. And I'm so honored that you felt called to be on my show. As a words of affirmation person, I look to connection and the term that we love, but hate at the same time, alignment. I look for that and I found it immediately in the message that you sent me. So I'm so honored to have this space with you
Uh,
today.
Thank you so much for having me.